Hey, Mark. Good morning.
Hey,
How are you?
hey, John. Good morning. How are you?
I am good. So today we are getting together to chat more around the whole process of purchasing a home, and today we're talking about the second step in the whole process. So
Right. So, in one of our earlier videos, John, we talked about getting the pre-approval letter,
yeah.
and essentially the pre-approval letter, when that gets sent to a client's realtor, the realtor has that in hand, and that is really a pre-underwritten um, buyer's letter to move forward.
Hmm.
When a buyer has that in coupled with his realtor or her realtor, um, that person now has a lot of clout with a seller because the seller now sees that pre-approval letter, knows this person is serious. They have the ability to consummate the loan to get the transaction done, and now they take that and they go back to their realtor and they start the house hunting or house shopping process, which goes back to you. So we're kind of ping-ponging this back and forth to get this transaction moving down the road.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so what happens when you get the pre-approval letter from there?
So once I get the pre-approval letter, there's a couple things that, as a realtor, I pay attention to. First and foremost is their budget. So in the pre-approval letter, Mark, that you send me, you will highlight they're approved up to X amount. Let's say they're approved up to $250,000. So that lets me know that their search can't exceed 250,000, and typically we'll try to find them a home a little bit below that because of negotiation or what have you, to give them some breathing room in between their upper limit. And also, as you're talking to them about the pre-approval, you're going to give them an idea what their payment is. So they're also getting an idea what their mortgage payment's going to be. So they kind of now correlate the dollar amount in that pre-approval to a payment, and they will also express, hey, I don't want to go beyond this because this is going to make me a little bit more tighter with my finances. So try to that establishes the budget. So the budget is set, and I have that. The second is the type of loan that they're going for. So in the letter, it'll let me know conventional U.S. USDA,
USDA.
VA,
Yep.
FHA, and the reason why that's important is because some of the homes that are out there, they don't accept VA or FHA or USDA type loans, or if it's a fixer upper, most of the time no loan will do well with it.
Right.
So those parameters need to be set up, right up front. But then we get into the other parameters, which is bedrooms, bathrooms, and location that we put in. So all that's fed together, and I put in to my system for an automated search for them, which I set up, and it makes it painless. So every day they get an email with a list of properties brand new that are coming onto the market that match those parameters. And then they also, a lot of buyers will go out into Zillow, Realtor.com, and look for properties as well, to see if there's anything that is not technically new but may have been on the market and still out there, that they may want to take a look at. From there, the buyer will let me know, say, hey, John, I'm really interested in XYZ property. Can we go take a look at this property in person? And I will typically request, hey, what day and time is good for you, so that I can request ahead of time, a showing, which means that we're going to go into the house. And the seller, of course, typically will have to, get prepared and leave the property so that we can come through and look at it. It's important, though, just on that note, that we have typically about a 24-hour notice. So if a buyer is interested in a property, they let me know, at least 24 hours in advance, just out of courtesy for the seller, to get prepared. Gone are the days where, hey, I'm going to take a look at this in the next hour or something. That most likely will not get approved. Just because you're requesting to see the property doesn't mean that you are confirmed to look at the property, because depending on what the seller has going on, we may actually not get that time slot, or it may be taken by another buyer that's coming through. So a 24
Right.
hour notice at least is minimal. Most of the time, though, buyers will let me know a few days ahead of time when they want to tour. So typically, like a Wednesday, they'll say, John, I want to take a look at the property on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon or Sunday. That gives me an ample amount of time to get them into a time slot. And then also, as a buyer, have a range of times, because the seller may be like, oh, that's too early or too late. So at least I have a range of those times to be able to get us in and confirm. So once we're confirmed, um, I will bring information about the property to them, a lot of detail, and the detail I give them is kind of a 360 view of the property, meaning a lot of the facts about the property, when it was built, the public sewer, public water, or whether it's a well water, or all the different facets about the home
Right. Right.
with me. And then also, I bring the seller's disclosure. And the seller's disclosure, as we're walking through, is really good for the buyer to take a look at, because that's disclosing what's going on with the property. Is there water damage down the basement, or does the roof leak, or when was the furnace replaced? Those kind of things that have to be disclosed about the property, up front, helps the buyer in the decision making process. Some pointers I give folks during this second step, and is really, if you're a first time buyer, don't fall in love with the first property you go and take a look at.
That's true.
Give yourself some properties to look at, to get a feel of what you really are going to be happy with. Because remember, this is one of the biggest purchases a person is going to make in their life,
Right.
and you really want to take and make sure that this is your home. So just because maybe you like the paint on the wall doesn't mean that this is going to be functionally good for your family. So let's take a look at a couple other properties and see what you want. And what I have found, interestingly enough, Mark, is that some buyers go in and they're accepting of a lot of I guess issues with a home up front, and then as we kind of take a look at more properties and they see the diversity in the properties, and how I can get this for this type of money, all of a sudden their expectations of a home go up to match what the budget may be, and maybe if they were at a certain level in their mind, that extra $10,000 gets them into a move-in ready home
Right.
versus something
Right.
they got to fix up.
Right.
So this second step of finding the home is critical, that you have patience. Every client that I've worked with on the buyer side has found their home. And I know this sounds kind of cliche, or kind of weird, but you will know when it's your home. When you walk into the home, you will feel it. It happens to every one of my clients. They turn to me and say, "This is it. This is my home."
Yeah. Yeah.
And we go fight for it, and they usually will fight for it because they know in their heart they could see their family in it, they could see themselves in it, and it meets most of their checklist, if not all of their checklist.
Yeah.
But patience is important during this phase, because you may look at 2, 3, 4, 5 properties, and the first couple you get discouraged. The market prior, we used to have to make multiple offers, right, on make an offer on this home, but we're up against competition, so we may lose that. But the market's starting to shift, and less of that competition's out there, which is good. Right now is a great time for buyers to get in with less competition and find a home, especially with some of the buyers pulling back and thinking about what's important at this point financially. It gives opportunities for other buyers that are like, look, I'm done with renting, and I need to find a home now.
Right.
It's more
Right.
likely that you will find that home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that second step is it's not just going out like shopping for a car, or a piece of furniture. This is an investment. So that said, I will when we find a home and you're like excited about it as a buyer, I will pull up a comp analysis on it to make sure that what you're buying you're actually getting some equity, right? So I don't like going into a closing knowing that a buyer's upside down. In fact, I will recommend against a buyer unless they are really all in on this house, that they want it no matter what. I will recommend against a buyer going into a home with no equity. They should have some equity in it, meaning that if you turned around tomorrow and tried to sell it, you would get some money back.
Right,
So
right,
that's
right,
important. That's really important.
right.
That's something that I think a lot of buyers got burned on back in the 2008 housing debacles, where they were overpaying for homes and the values crashed down, and they were upside down, and that was a disaster. And so, I really think about that and the buyers' financial future as we get into those negotiations, making sure that that value in the comp is that it's higher than what we're going in with an offer, so that it's always
Right,
upside for them.
right, right. One
Um,
thing I wanted to add that I have heard quite a bit of chatter about is that um, when you're taking a buyer through a home, sellers are setting up listening devices.
mm,
So
yeah,
they are listening, like Ring doorbell and other types of devices that they will put around the home. So when you're talking as you walk through this home, about what you feel the value should be, or you like this or you don't like that, don't say those things openly in that environment, because it's likely that that's being picked up, and that gives the seller ammunition to either hold up his price higher than he knows he should let it go for. It just reveals a lot. So
yeah.
that would be my advice. I've heard a lot of other realtors have those discussions with their clients. Don't
Yeah,
talk about things out in the open, while you're touring a home.
yeah, typically we will have conversations on the outside of the house, as we're going back to our vehicles, to talk about the feeling about the house. There may be things that the buyer brings up while we're walking through the home, like I don't like the paint color, or I may see
Right.
something. So as a buyer agent, my job, I know a lot of folks will say, a real estate agent's job is to sell. No, it's really just to provide the information so that you make a informed decision. A lot
Right.
of times I will be very vocal about a home if I see things that don't make sense or I see some blemishes. I'd rather, again, make sure that a person's getting a home that they're going to be happy with. And if that means, the house doesn't smell right, or it's, something else, issues, I'll be the first one to flag it. So we may talk about that inside the house,
Right.
to your
Right.
point.
Right.
But
Right.
anything around price or comp value and things like that will most likely handle outside, away from potentially listening devices and visual devices, as those are more readily available to folks. So
Right. Right. So once you get to that point, somebody likes a home, and they want to make an offer. What's the next step?
well, that's the comp analysis, and I think we'll get into the next step in our next video, so
Okay.
that we don't take too much time today. We'll talk about
Right.
that in our third step. But really, the shopping process starts with the end of the pre-approval letter, which we talked about what establishes the criteria around what kind of home they can get. Then we talk about the search. We talk about being patient through the search process so that you find the right home. And then at the tail end of this process, once you select a home to say, I think I want to move forward, there's still another part of that, and that's that comp analysis that I will do to ensure that you're not, purchasing a home that is upside down. But the next
Right.
step I'm excited about, we'll talk about next week.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so we'll do that. But Mark, awesome time talking to you again this morning. And yeah, I'm really excited that we're kind of walking folks through this journey. So have a great rest of
Yes.
your morning. Take care.
You too.
All
You
right.
too. Thank you, John. Nice to see
Thank
you
you.
again.
Good too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.